Hi everyone, welcome to MyMax Academy. In this video, we'll continue with chapter number 1, real numbers from 10th standard CBSE Max. We will continue from page number 12, theorem 1.3. Page number 12, theorem 1.3. So we will see only the statement of the theorem. The proof is not part of your exam. So what we have is the theorem states that let P be a prime number if P divides a square, then P divides a, where a is a positive integer, where a is a positive integer, some positive integer. So what the statement says, let P be a prime number if P divides a square, then P divides a, where a is a positive integer. So what it means, if you read the statement, some people can understand, some of us cannot understand what this conveys, what the statement means or what this theorem means. So I'll give you some examples, then you can understand this statement. So what it says is, suppose if phi is a prime number, so P is 5, P equal to 5, P is a prime number, phi is a prime number. Suppose if P divides a square, suppose P divides, so phi divides, so I'm taking this one, phi divides, suppose phi divides 225, phi divides 225, 225 can be written as what? 225 is equal to 15 square. So which means phi divides 225, which means phi divides 15 square. Then we can say, then phi divides 15. Here 15 is a. Number 15 is a. What it says is, suppose if a is, see, phi is a prime number, and if phi divides 225, then phi divides 15. 225 can be written as 15 square, which means phi divides 15 square, then we can say phi divides 15, which is true. Phi will divide 15. And phi divides 225, that is also true, which means phi divides 15 square. Then you can say definitely phi will divide 15. So this is true for a prime number. If it divides square of a number, then it divides that number. And that's what it says. P divides a square. A square means 15 square. P is 5. 5 divides, so P divides a square, then P divides a. Clear? So we can take one more example. Suppose we'll say 3 divides 36. 36 is equal to what? 6 square. Then we can say 3 divides 6, which is true. 3 will divide 6. 3 2s are 6, right? So when 3 divides 36, 36 is what? 6 square. Which means P divides a square, then P divides a. This is true only when if P is a prime number. For 5, 3, these are prime numbers. If it is not a prime number, then it is not true. For example, let's take an example where it is not true. So here it is true, here it is not. Here also it is true. But suppose if we take a number, suppose let's take 4 divides. 4 divides. So I'm going to write a condition where it will fail if this is not a prime number. 4 is not a prime number. I'm taking a number which is not a prime number. 4 divides 36. Same 36 I'll take, which is 6 square. 4 divides 36 because 4 9s are 36. But then can we say 4 divides 6? We cannot say this. So this is wrong. We cannot say this. Why this is failing? We say 4 divides a square, then 4 divides 6. Can 4 divide 6? No, 4 cannot divide 6. So this statement is failing. Why this is failing? Because 4 is, we are taking P as 4, and 4 is not a prime number. So if you take any non-prime number, it may be true or it may not be true. Which means this statement will be false. But if only P is a prime number, then this is true. P is a prime number, then this is always true. If it is not a prime number, then it need not be always true. If something is not always true, then we call that as a false statement, right? Something which is not always true, which means sometimes it is true, sometimes it is false, means what? Conclusion is false. But if something is always true, that we call it as a theorem. But this is always true. So this here it is not true. Clear? So this we can. So we will use this theorem to prove certain theorem in your textbook. Fine. So this is clear. So I will erase this. Fine. So as I said, here it is failing because 4 is not a prime number. 4 is not a prime number. If it was a prime number, then this would have been true. Since 4 is not a prime, here the 3 divides 36, which is 6 square. 3 divides 6. Here it is true. Why? Because 3 is a prime number. Here also it is true. Why? Because 5 is a prime number. But if you take any non-prime number, this statement will not work for non-prime number. Right? Okay. Now let me erase this. Now we will go to theorem 1.4. Theorem 1.4, important theorem, page number 12, theorem 1.4, important board question, theorem 1.4. So what it says is, theorem says is root 2 is irrational number. Root 2 is irrational number. We have to prove that root 2 is irrational number. And we studied about rational, irrational, real numbers in the first video of this chapter. You can refer to my first video of the chapter where I have talked about what is a rational number, what is an irrational number, and what are real numbers and all that. So the first video you can watch. So here we need to prove that root 2 is irrational. So that is a theorem. We are trying to proof for this theorem. Right? So to prove that root 2 is irrational, we will prove this by the method of contradiction. We have various methods to prove, but we will prove by the method of contradiction. So what it says is, suppose for that we have to, so proof is, so whenever you want to prove by the method of contradiction, we have to assume that this is not true. Whenever you want to prove by the method of contradiction, we will assume that this statement is not true. Suppose, let's assume that root 2 is not an irrational number, which means root 2 is rational. To prove root 2 is irrational, we are going to use the method of contradiction to prove this. Right? For that, we will first assume this statement is false. This is not true, which means root 2 is not an irrational number, which means we will assume that root 2 is a rational number. So if we assume root 2 is a rational number, right? Let us assume that root 2 is rational. Rational means rational number. Then we know that any rational number can be written in the form of a fractional form, right? So we can say, so root 2 can be written as some fraction r by s, where r and s are integers, and this is a definition for the rational number, right? Integers, and s is not equal to 0. S is not equal to 0, which means we have assumed that root 2 is rational, which means root 2 can be written as a fraction, some number r by some number s. So it will have some numerator and denominator. Why? Because we have assumed root 2 as rational. Any rational number can be expressed in the form of r by s, where r and s are integer and s is not equal to 0. Now we can say that cancelling. So see, whenever we write any number in terms of fraction, we can always simplify the fraction. Meaning, suppose we have somewhere like 20 by 24. If this is how this r by s is, then I can always simplify this and write it in the simplest form of 5 by 6. Right? I can cancel both by 4 5s are 20, 4 6 are 24. I can write it as 5 by 6, which is the simplest form. I can't cancel anymore. 5 and 6 will not go in any other number. This is the simplest form. I can't cancel further. I can't reduce this fraction further. Suppose it is like this. R by S is like 20 by 24. Suppose some number. Then we'll say cancelling out all common factors of R and S. So which means I'm cancelling this. I'm simplifying this fraction. Right? Cancelling out all common factors of R by S, my root 2 will become some A by B. Which means I have cancelled out. Right? In this example I have cancelled out. Now it has become like 5 by 6. I'm just taking an example. It's not like R by 6 is 20 by 24. Which means root 2 is R by 6. Now I am cancelling all the common factors. Now I have reduced it to a simplest form of the fraction. We can't reduce further. Which means I can't cancel out both. Which means A and B will not get divided by the same number. I can cancel. A and B will not be divisible by any common number. So cancelling out all the common factors, R and S, common factors, then root 2 will become A by B, where A and B will not have A and B will not have any common factors. Nothing will be common. If it is anything is common, we have cancelled everything. Suppose if it is like this, again I'm taking the same number. If it is 20 by 24, I am cancelling by 2. 2 tens are, 2 12s are. So it will become 10 by 12. Again I am cancelling 5 by 6. So again I can't cancel further more. So this is my like R by S. I have made it as A by B, which means there is nothing common between common factors between 5 and 6. Common factors means there is no number that will divide both 5 and 6. So now A by B is in that form, where A and B will not have any common factors, which means that is A and B. A and B are co-prime. What is the meaning of co-prime? Co-prime means there is no number that will cancel both the numbers. For example, the number 5 and 6 are called as co-prime. Co-prime means you need to have two numbers. Right? Co-prime means you need to have two numbers. Now both the numbers, you take 5 and 6. Right? So they will not have any common factors. There is no number that will divide both 5 and 6. There is no number that will divide both 5 and 6. Then you call 5 and 6 as co-prime, or there is no common factor. We don't have any common factor between 5 and 6. Right? Then we call that as them as co-prime. So we can have many examples. Say I can have 49 and suppose 9. 49 and 9 are cofactors because there is nothing common. There is no number that will divide both 49 and 9. There is no number that will divide 49 and 9. Then we call this 49 and 9 as both together as co-prime. But individually if you see, they are not prime. 49 is not a prime number, 9 is not a prime number. But together we call them as co-prime. Co-prime, which means there is no number that will divide both. If there are two numbers in such a way that there is no number that will divide both the numbers other than 1. 1 will divide always all the numbers. Except 1, there is no other number that will divide both these two. Then you call those two numbers as co-prime. So here that is what happened. No? If they don't have any common factors means 1. No, it will not have any common factors except 1. 1 is very obvious because 49 is divisible by 1, 9 is divisible by 1. So the only common factor between them is 1. Right? So now, which means cancelling all the common factors, root 2 becomes A by B, where A and B will not have any common, which means I can't cancel this by any other number. Like both of them will not go in 2 or both of them will not go in 3 or any number. Both of them will not get cancelled by any number. Because all the cancellation we have done and we have reduced it to the simplest form. We can't reduce this further. Right? So that is A and B are co-prime. Now let's do, what we will do is we will take this, we will square both sides, squaring both sides. Squaring both sides. What we get? We get root 2 the whole square is equal to A square by B square. I'm squaring both sides. then root 2 will become 2. 2 is equal to a square by b square. Or I can take this b square here, 2 will go here. I can have b square equal to a square by 2. So this 2 will go here, b square will come here. Now what this tells you? This tells you a square by 2, you get b square, you get another integer. When you divide a square by 2, you are getting an integer. Which means what? 2 is dividing a square. So from here what we get? We get 2 divides, 2 is dividing a square, 2 divides a square. Therefore by the theorem 1.3, what it says? Let p be a prime number. If p divides a square, then p will divide a. Now here p, it is a prime number, 2 divides a square. Therefore we can say 2 divides a, using that previous theorem. Theorem 1.3, what it says? If 2 divides a square, then you can say 2 will divide a. That is the previous theorem 1.3, which says that if p is a prime number and if p divides a square, then p will divide a. Here p is 2. In this case, p is 2 prime number. 2 is a prime number. 2 divides a square. From this we get that because it is a square by 2. A square by 2 gives you an integer, which means a square is divisible by 2. Or 2 divides a square. When 2 divides a square, we can say 2 divides a. So when 2 divides a, then a is a multiple of 2. Then a can be written as 2 into something. If 2 is dividing a means what? 2 is like 4 or 10 or whatever, even number. Then which means a can be written as 2 into c for some integer c. For some integer c. Positive integer c. So a is 2c. Now substitute. Right? Now I'll write the continuation here. Fine. Now, right now, continuation of this. Now substituting a equal to 2c, right, in this one. So I'll call this as suppose equation 1. Fine. So a is equal to 2c. Substitute a is equal to 2c in 1. If I substitute a is equal to 2c here, then what we get? We get b square is equal to a square by 2, and a is what? 2c. So 2c the whole square by 2. Right? So in the place of a, I am putting 2c. So this will become b square is equal to a. In the place of a, I have put 2c. 2c the whole square by 2. And this will become b square is equal to 4c square by 2. Then b square is equal to, now 2 and 4 will get cancelled. 2 and 4 will get cancelled. It becomes 2. So we'll get 2c square. B square is equal to 2t square, which means I can bring this 2 down. I'll get b square is equal to, b square by 2 is equal to c square. This 2 will come down. We'll go to the denominator. Now b square by 2 is c square, which means what? C is an integer. When c is an integer, c square is also an integer. So when b square is divided by 2, we get an integer, which means this says that 2 divides b square. 2 divides b square. Because b square by 2 gives you an integer. Therefore 2 divides b square. So 2 divides b square. Therefore by the earlier theorem we can say 2 divides b. 2 divides b, which means I can write b as a multiple of some number d, 2 into d. 2 divides b means what? B is an even number. If b is an even number, then b can be written as 2 into d for some integer d. D is some integer. Now what we get? Now if you observe here, we got a is equal to 2c and we are getting b is equal to 2d. A is equal to 2c and b is equal to 2d. Which means what? 2 is dividing a and 2 is dividing b. But we said a and b will not have any common factors except 1. Except the number 1, it will not have any common factor. But what we are saying? We are seeing a factor 2, a common factor, a common number that divides a as well as that divides b. But here, after cancelling out, we said a and b are such a way that no number will divide a and b. But here 2 is dividing a as well as 2 is dividing b. But here what we got here, we got that a and b are, no number will divide both a and b. But down the line what we are getting? We are getting 2 is dividing a as well as 2 is dividing b. Right? So we have also 2 divides so b is equal to 2d, we can say therefore 2 divides a and 2 divides b. 2 divides a and 2 divides b, which means 2 is a common factor of a and b. For a, 2 is a common factor of a and b, but this is a contradiction. But this contradicts the fact that a and b are co-prime. This contradicts the fact that a and b are co-prime, because here we said a and b are co-prime, but this is contradicting that, because 2 is a common factor of a and b means what? There is a number that divides both a and b, but here we have simplified in such a way that no number will divide a and b, but here we are getting that 2 divides a and b. That is a contradiction to the fact that a and b are co-prime. Why are we getting this contradiction? Because we assumed root 2 as rational number. Therefore, we will say our assumption is wrong. Therefore, root 2 is irrational. That is how we will prove this. So, what we do? But this contradicts the fact that a and b are co-prime, right? We get this contradiction. We get this contradiction because of our incorrect assumption that root 2 is rational. Right? We get this contradiction. Why? Because of our incorrect assumption that root 2 is rational. So our assumption is wrong. What we have proved finally, our assumption is wrong. Therefore, root 2 is irrational. Therefore, root 2 is irrational. That is the proof. Clear? So we assumed we have to prove root 2 is irrational. We assumed that root 2 is rational, and then we did some calculation and we got a contradiction. Right? That contradiction is happening. Why? Because our assumption is incorrect. Our assumption that root 2 is rational is incorrect. Therefore, root 2 is irrational. So this is a proof to say that root 2 is an irrational number. This is how we prove that root 2 is an irrational number. Fine. So copy this. Now we will do next one, example 9. Right? I'm going to do the same thing for example 9 with little changes. Fine. So example 9. Now I'm going to the example 9. Next one, example 9. Example 9 in your page number 13. So what it says? It says prove that root 3 is irrational. Prove that root 3. We have to prove that square root of 3. Prove that root 3 is irrational. The same like how we did for root 2, we are going to do for root 3. Now what I will do, I will just keep this as it is. I will keep changing few things here and there. So what I will do, so we will say how do we start? The same way how we did. So we will say let's assume that root 3 is rational. We will say that we will assume that root 3 is rational. Then root 3 can be written as r by s, where r and s are integer and s is not equal to 0. Now cancelling out all the common factors of r and s, then root 3 becomes a by b, where a and b will not have any common factors except one, that is a and b are co-prime, which means there is no number that will divide a and b. Now continuation, now squaring both sides, so it will become 3. Right? Now this 2 will become square root of 3, the whole square is what? 3, because root 3 into root 3 is 3. Now this will give this b will go, this 3 will go here, b will come here, so it will become a square by 3. Now what we get? We get 3 divides a square. 3 is dividing a square, but 3 is a prime number. Therefore, you can say 3 will divide a. When 3 divides a, then I can write a as some 3 into c. 3 divides a means a can be written as some 3 into c. 3 divides a means what? A is a multiple of 3. A is a multiple of 3. Then I can write a as 3 into some number c, some integer c, for some integer c. Now substitute a is equal to 3c in 1. Substitute a is equal to 3c in 1. Right? Then what we get? We get b square is equal to, I am going to substitute a as 3c in this. Right? Now b square is equal to 3c the whole square by 2. Now if you cancel out both, right, here it is by 3. We are substituting here, right? In the place of a square, I am putting, in the place of a, I am putting 3c. It will become 3c the whole square by this 3. Now this will become 3 square is 9c square by 3. Now if I cancel 9 and 3, I will get 3 times. Then this will become 3c square. Now 3 will come down. Then this will become 3. Now 3 divides b square. What is the meaning of this? B square by 3 means what? 3 is dividing b square. 3 is dividing b square. Therefore, 3 is dividing b square. Therefore, we can say 3 divides b, which means b is also a multiple of 3. So I can write b as 3 into some d. For some integer d, we can say that b will become 3 into d for some integer d. Right? B is equal to 3d. Now, therefore, what we get? We get 3 divides a and 3 divides b. 3 is dividing a and 3 is dividing b. Here, 3 divides a, 3 divides b, which means 3 divides a and 3 divides b, which means 3 is a common factor of a and b. But this contradicts the fact that a and b are co-prime. This contradicts the fact that a and b are co-prime. Right? So therefore, this contradicts the fact that a and b are co-prime. We get this contradiction because our assumption that root 3. Our assumption is what? Root 3 is rational. Or because of our incorrect assumption. Which means our assumption is incorrect. Therefore, we will say root 3 is irrational. So this is how we prove that root 3 is irrational. Okay. So I just made the changes for wherever 2 was there, I replaced with 3. The same explanation. However, we did as root 2 as irrational, same explanation we have given it for root 3 as irrational. And you can use this for any prime number. Prove that root p is irrational for any p where p is prime number. That is always true. You can use the same thing for any prime number. Square root of any prime number is a irrational number. Same method you have to follow. Fine. So copy this. Now, before going to example 10, next is example 10. I will do exercise 1.3 similar to exercise 1.3 for root 5 is irrational. First sum, then we will go back to example 10 and example 11. Fine. So now we will prove root 5 is irrational. The same method, I am going to make the same change and prove that root 5 is irrational. Now we are going to do exercise 1.5. Then I will come back in the next video. You can see me doing example 10 and example 11. Fine. Since the exercise 1.3 prove that root 5 is irrational is in the same method, I will explain the same procedure for root 5 also. Fine. So we will do in page number 14. So page number 14. Page number 14. Exercise 1.3. First problem. Prove that root 5 is irrational. erase and write it again. You have to prove that first problem in 1.3 exercises. Prove that root 5 is irrational. Clear? You have to prove that root 5 is irrational. To prove that root 5 is irrational, fine. So what we'll do, we'll say again the same method. Let us assume that root 5 is rational. That's how we start. How do we start? We'll assume that root 5 is rational. When root 5 is rational, I can write root 5 as root 5 equal to r by s, where r and s are some integers and s is not equal to 0. That is the definition of the rational number, right? Now cancelling out all common factors of r and s, I can write my root 5 as, to cancel out all the common factors, then r by s will become a by b, where a and b will not have any common factors except one, that is a and b are co-prime. A and b are co-prime, which means we cannot further cancel. The a and b is not divisible by any particular number. No number will divide the same number. No number will divide both a and b. No number will divide both a and b together. So, which means they will not have any common factors. So now squaring both sides. So if I square this, it will become 5. Squaring here, then square root of 5 whole square will become 5. Now b square, this 5 will go here, b square will come here. So b square comes here, 5 goes here. Then it will become 5. Now this says that a square by 5 means what? 5 divides a square. 5 divides a square. So therefore, using the previous theorem 1.3, when 5 divides a square, we know 5 divides a also, because 5 is a prime number. So therefore, a can be written as 5c. When 5 divides a square means what? A can be written as 5 into c for some integer c. Now substitute a is equal to 5c in first equation. In this, then b square is equal to a. A is what? A is 5c. I am putting here 5c. Then this will become 5c the whole square. Divided by, what do we have? 5 here. So 5. Right here we are substituting. In the place of a, I am putting 5c. This value 5c here. Then you will get this. Then what do we get? So b square will be equal to, what is 5c the whole square? That will become 25c square by 5. Now 5 will get 5 1s are 5, 5 5s are. So b square will become 5 into c square. If I cancel this is 5c square. 5 into c square. Then the 5 comes down. This will become 5. This 5 comes down. Now what it says? 5 divides b square. B square by 5 is, I am getting some integer, which means what? 5 divides b square. So we'll say here 5 divides b square. So 5 divides b square. So when 5 divides b square, 5 will divide b by theorem 1.3. Right? By theorem 1.3 in page number 12. 5 divides b square means 5 divides b. When 5 divides b, then b is a multiple of 5. Then b can be written as 5 into some d, some other integer d. Now what we get here? So here we see 5 divides a and 5 divides b, which means 5 divides a and 5 divides b, which means 5 is a common factor of a and b. But here we said a and b will not have any common factors except 1. But here we are getting 5 as the common factor. But this is a contradiction to the fact that a and b are co-prime. So this contradicts this. This contradicts. 5 is a common factor of a and b, contradicts that a and b are co-prime. A and b are co-prime means what? They will not have any common factors except 1. No number will divide both a and b except 1. 1 is the only number which will divide both a and b. That was the situation here. But what we are getting here? 5 will divide both a and b. This is contradicting this statement. Right? So, but this contradicts the fact that a and b are co-prime. So therefore, okay, a and b are co-prime. And we get this contradiction because of our incorrect assumption that root 3 is rational. Here it is root 5. Root 5 is rational. Therefore, root 5 is irrational. Therefore, we have proved that root 5 is irrational. So any number, even if it is proved that root 7 is irrational, same method. If you have to prove root 11 is irrational, so any prime number in the root, inside the root, square root of p is irrational for any prime number p. Now you can even prove as a general statement. Fine. So this is how we prove that root 5 is irrational. Fine. So I will stop here and we will continue from the next. We will continue in the next video for the example 10 and example 11 and the remaining part of exercise 1.3. Please watch my next video for the continuation of this. Thanks for watching.